anything? It's bad. So it says colored. It doesn't say black.
Black they used was negri.
Yeah, negri. So he's a dark one. Yeah. So could be half breed, you see, and we could have half breed on the throne of Britain for.
He's definitely identified as Knight, N-A-I, nephew of Arthur.
Fantastic.
Probably 50%.
Okay, buffalo in the Druid fight.
That the human race was all one race at one time as they started migrating. One color, one race, and that's the way it should be thought of.
Well, we've had our first stone. We expect many more. Yes, go ahead.
What you're talking about is 1979, Arkansas Archaeologists
Yes.
did a study of the Cahokia land with all these buildings there. They found that the standard unit of measure used there was 16 and a half feet, 33 feet, 66 feet. And that's the surveyor's rod and chain that we use today that came from England.
It's pretty powerful.
It's the Welsh short yoke, medium yoke, and long yoke. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
But nobody's looking, and nobody's listening. That's all we ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that Alan Wilson has some of his research books here if any of you are interested in purchasing tonight. In addition to that, I'm sure that both gentlemen would be happy to talk with you down front. We thank you very much for coming this evening.
Hello, I'm Jim Michael with the Ancient Kentucky Historical Association, and we're affiliated with the Kentucky Confederation of Historical Associations. Today I'm recording a program for you that was presented in January of 1993 at Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and it's how the alphabet was lost. The alphabet that we're talking about is the Coelbren alphabet, and it was found on a tablet at Grave Creek, which is Moundville, West Virginia, about 10 miles south of Wheeling, West Virginia, in 1838 by a fellow named Tomlinson. Now the tablet is only 1.5 inches to 2 inches in diameter and about 3/4 of an inch thick, sandstone, and yet it held 22 alphabetic letters. In 1843, Henry Schoolcraft came to West Virginia to look at the tablet. It had received worldwide publicity after it had been announced by Tomlinson about 2 years after he found it. This was about 10 years after Joseph Smith had found the golden tablets, and consequently Tomlinson said that he didn't want to pick up the stigma of all the controversy that had been involved with Joseph Smith's tablets. So for a couple years he kind of didn't tell anybody about it. Then later he announced it and it received worldwide attention, and that's when Henry Schoolcraft came to Moundville. Now Henry Schoolcraft was the co-director of the Bureau of Ethnology, later the Smithsonian Institute. And after he delivered his paper in the British Isles, he set out immediately to figure out what this tablet was. He recognized 22 alphabetic letters, said that, and one hieroglyph. Now, let's take a look at Henry Schoolcraft. If you read the Mound Builders, you'll find out his background. He was commissioned by President Madison to take over a Indian outpost as the Indian agent on the frontier. He married a one-half Ojibwe Native American woman, and in the 1800s he had to have known of the Legends of Madoc. It was certainly published by John Filson in 1784, and in 1808 it was in the newspapers, certainly in Kentucky, and I'm sure West Virginia, two different places here in Kentucky. So the question is, if he knew about the Welsh-speaking Indians, and he knew about the Prince Madoc legends that were floating around on practically every watering hole in Kentucky at that time period, why didn't he think that this was the alphabet of the Welsh-speaking Indians, which it was? Unfortunately, he wrote to Copenhagen in Denmark, and then he wrote to Paris. Now, these people told him he's absolutely right. It was an alphabet, and that 16 of the letters were in fact Celtiberian, which they are. This alphabet was left on the Iberian Peninsula. The Celt portion of it may be a misnomer. But then 14 of the letters were definitely Old British. Well, he had all this information. The question again is, why didn't he write to the British Isles someplace? He didn't. They had also mentioned that maybe one or two of the letters might be Phoenician, so he wrote to Tunisia to see if some of these letters were Phoenician, and then he wrote to Greece and Italy through the Mediterranean, and he got confused. Then his predecessors, people who followed him, Cyrus Thomas, John Wesley Powell, got caught up as the great debate is described in the Mound Builders book by Silverberg. And everybody had a view on who built the mounds. Thomas Jefferson certainly did. Ben Franklin did. And of course, the conclusion was nobody was here before Columbus, therefore it had to be the Native Americans, the American Indians that built them, and that's the way it went down. So, would like now to take you up the river to West Virginia. We have a record of General George Rogers Clark having gone up there in 1775 to look at this mound. The mound was the largest conical earthen grave mound in the world, and was certainly known by Jefferson at that time, 1875, and by General George Rogers Clark, who went up to look at it. You'd find it by simply going up the Ohio River. I'm sure that's how he traveled at that time. Today we would go to Cincinnati on Interstate 71, pick up Interstate 70, and go across through Ohio, and when we end at the end of Ohio, we cross the bridge right into Wheeling. We turn right and follow the river down 10 miles south till we get to Moundville. And there we'll see the historical markers of Moundville and of the Grave Creek Mound. We're going to look at a $1 million museum there. We're going to have a chance to talk to the curator, the lady who calls herself the superintendent, works for the park department, and you'll hear some of the strange translations that we find that were on the small Grave Creek tablet. West Virginia, and it's named for the Grave Creek Mound. Okay, the mound was 900 feet around, 700 feet high, and its largest conical mound in America. The inscribed stone found in it has never been deciphered until now. And near was an Indian fort built by Joseph Tomlinson. Tomlinson is the one that dug in this mound and found the tablet in 1828. So here we stand in Moundville, the city of Moundville, at Grave Creek. Grave Creek Mound, it says this world-famous mound was built by the Adena people. Isn't that interesting? Sometime before the Christian era. They don't know it was built by Christians. The mound was originally 69 feet high, 295 feet in diameter, and was encircled by a moat. Isn't that interesting? There were many mounds in the area, hence the city's name, Moundville. In 1838, the Grave Creek Mound was tunneled into and 2 log tombs with several burials in the grave offering were found. And now we're going to scan right over here to the mound, and you can see the mound from the back side. We'll try to get a little bit better view of it from the other side. There's actually a walkway up and around it where people can climb, and it says that it was 69 feet tall. Other recordings reported it being 100 foot tall. The 1838 investigation, and then later you see the second shaft being dug in at the bottom, but the contents of the upper chamber indicated that there was one skeleton, 1,700 disc shell beads, that there were 500 shell beads, a bar gorget, expanded bar gorget, diamond-shaped gorget, 5 copper bracelets, 240 fragments of mica, and an engraved stone tablet, as you see here. And in addition to that, there were below there were 2 skeletons, expanded center bar gorget, and 650 disc shell beads. I have not been able to see those here, but here is a close-up of the tablet. Again, a close-up just as we have it. So we'll have a chance to look at that again. There appears to have been a ring around it, and the date again, they say here, was 1838. Differs a little bit from what we've read before. The letters beginning from left to right. Here's various attempts to translate the Grave Creek tablet, and it says that Henry Schoolcraft, it's Craft, not Croft, simply tried to identify it. He didn't really try to translate it. He simply reported. He